America wants to be the crypto capital or the Bitcoin capital of the world, it would seem like that would have to be one of the things that allows this ecosystem to flourish. So why can't they exist here? Is there some rule or regulation that's preventing them?
Yeah, MTL laws. I
Mm.
can't put an ad on Craigslist that says I'm selling $600 worth of Bitcoin. Meet me here,
Mm.
or I'll take Cash App or whatever. That's not permitted. That's not legal in this country.
What's an MTL law?
Money transmitter license. I have a company that's called Thunder Funder. And Thunder Funder is a way that anyone can invest in startup companies with as little as $100. Although we're looking for a new CEO. So if you know of anybody, if there's anyone out there, please shoot me an email or something and talk to me about being the new CEO of Thunder Funder.
All right. Okay, we are live with the Daily Bitcoin Podcast. I've got Mike Jarmuz with Lightning Ventures, and I ran into him on X, which is where you meet a ton of great Bitcoiners doing some great work. And I asked if he'd love to come become a guest on the show, and we can expose a lot of what he's doing to our audience here. So, Mike, how's life treating you in Bitcoin land?
Life is crazy in Bitcoin land, kind of like always, right? I mean, it's always never a dull moment, that's for sure.
Yeah. So maybe give us a little backstory. How'd you get into this craziness? And then how did you get on the building side? So many people are in Bitcoin, but they're just like hold it on exchange, and that's the extent, or buy an ETF and they're officially in Bitcoin, I guess, whatever. But you're on the builder side. So how did you get into this?
How did I get into venture capital or in Bitcoin?
Actually, I will take both because you can come by two different paths. So venture capital, I guess, was that your career where you came from in the investment world?
No. So I was in the music business for maybe about 10 years or so. I
Mm.
was very passionate about that. That was really all I wanted to do with my life for the longest time. But after that, I had many different businesses, worked for myself. I had a cafe in New York City. I had a bar there as well. We actually had an early Bitcoin ATM way back then, before there was a bit license and all that stuff in New York that there is now. And really have done a million different things and kind of have a very eclectic experience.
Where does
So
that is that were you like this as a child? Or parents like this? Or where's that come from, that entrepreneurial spirit?
I just always had that desire. When I was in, like, elementary school, I used to buy the big packs of the Big Red and then sell them at school
I love it.
until they no longer let me do that.
I
But
love it.
yeah, I could work. I worked as a child as early as I could. In Arizona, they'd let you do very limited part-time work at around 15. And one of my first jobs was working at Lollapalooza 96. I had an opportunity to work in the concession stand there. And that was definitely a pivotal moment for me, walking out there, and Rancid came on the stage, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen or heard, and kind of, I don't know, set me down for the next bit of life.
Wow.
Um,
Are you still involved in music at all, or you kinda left that behind for what you're doing now, or
no, completely left that behind a long
Mm.
time ago, and then I had moved to New York City and kind of started over in life, and was an early employee at a healthcare startup, and just restarted my life after music. And that's kind of when I started investing in companies and just following sort of private companies and
Mhm.
learning how to invest. Because, as you can tell, clearly I have an MBA from Cornell, you
Oh,
know.
yes. You're not allowed to invest unless you have a college degree that says you're qualified to, right?
Yeah, well, thankfully, we're in this age right now where you can learn, a lot,
Mhm.
from just the internet and people like yourself sharing knowledge. So I was able to kind of get up to speed with early stage investing and my own personal angel investments, and just took up as much of it as I could. And I just absolutely love it. So I kind of went psychotic with it. I invested in way too many companies and way too
Mhm.
many deals, probably over 2,000
Oh my
when you think
gosh.
about the amount of deals. Yeah, that's just over 1,500 unique companies, and then when you count the follow-on investments and stuff, the deal count is probably over 2,200 or so.
Now, how many of those were you able to participate maybe on an intellectual level or connecting them to, people in an ecosystem that might benefit this startup? Were they all just financial, or you were just kinda like the dumb money, or did you, like, bring money, contacts, and try to actually get involved with any of these startups?
No, so if you have a full-time job or you're doing something else, I mean, you really can't.
Right.
But when you're starting on your investing journey, you might join various syndicates. I mean, that's what the deal flow, right? How do you get your deal flow up? Where are you getting these opportunities from that's not you personally just vetting every founder and going out there looking for stuff? So you kind of have these trusted, fund leads or syndicate leads or people that are out there running these groups that kind of vet it before it gets in front of you. And then you can invest small amounts of money in a lot of these angel groups. And that's kind of what helps you to get some experience. Because once
Mm.
you invest, even if it's a redacted update, you'll get updates from the founder and you can see where you can add value. Maybe you can refer somebody for hiring or a fractional CFO or something that adds value to them, or maybe a couple of influencers or somebody if they're building out a referral program, and you just try to help when you can, where you can. But, if you invest a couple of $1,000s into some syndicate and some company through a syndicate, and it's outside of what you do, there might not be a lot you can do.
Right.
I remember there's a company, they're in the news right now. They're doing really well. They're called Colossal,
Mm.
and they're trying to basically revive the woolly mammoth like Jurassic Park, like a real life Jurassic Park. Like this is the startup, and they just raised it like a crazy valuation. And I was checking my crazy spreadsheet, and I'm like, oh, I did invest in that twice.
Ah,
But
nice.
what kind of value can I add for them? None.
Mm.
Even at the earliest stages, right? But the value that we add with Lightning Ventures or is to Bitcoin startups, and that's what our focus is. So we just look at that, and that's really all we care about.
So now you've pulled out of, I guess, I don't know what you want to label those, like the fiat investors that you discover in early stage, and now are you exclusively looking at Bitcoin startups globally, or you have a certain market you're looking at?
So I personally am just investing in Bitcoin startups. I'm
Mhm.
not no longer any sort of medical devices or robotics and AI. And there's so many exciting things that you can invest in.
Mhm.
It's just how much time do you have and what can you really give your attention to. So Lightning Ventures just focuses on Bitcoin startups, and there's no stage or geographic limitation. The thesis is all things Bitcoin.
Mm. Now, did you ever have to go through like a shitcoin stage where you didn't really know the difference between that? What did that journey look like? Or did you just one of the lucky ones that just maybe you had a mentor that brought you into Bitcoin and kept you on the straight and narrow?
No, I think everyone has a shitcoin phase at
Mhm.
some point in time. Even Giacomo Zucco will tell you his story about Ripple
Mhm.
and getting a cookie when somebody bribed him into it. But I think everyone goes through that. I mean, certainly that first altcoin sort of crypto wave. There
Mhm.
was that was the first taste of it, something called sex coin,
Mhm.
and all of these sort of feather coin and a lot of those older crypto names. And, BTC-E, BTCE was like the European uh, Bitcoin exchange at the time, like no KYC, no nothing. I mean,
Mm,
you just put in your email address and, you can deposit. And they had, kind of all the pairs there, not a ton of liquidity, but everything was very like primitive. So if you were digging down the hole and you go through this, Litecoin is the silver to the gold sort of rabbit hole and start thinking about all these things. I mean, everyone goes through that. So yeah,
mhm.
sure. I had some of that.
Yeah, I do have some people that I've gotten close to Bitcoin, and they've never gone through that stage because they came into our Bitcoin meetup, and we just kept them on this path, and I'm like, "Y'all don't know how lucky y'all are." I don't know, maybe I have a little bit better education because 'cause I've got some scars from the altcoin experience.
But though, like just thinking about it, like looking back, it really wasn't as like a toxic, maxi,
Mhm.
like hardcore thing. Obviously people like Bitcoin is the one, but it wasn't quite like it was today. There also wasn't like 35,000 different things out there.
You're
But
right.
never at any point in time did I ever think that anything else was Bitcoin or had anything to do with it. But I can't, of course I tried to catch a pump, or just getting into it is just so exciting. I imagine most people also, I didn't have anyone to keep me out of it. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, I didn't have any mentor or anyone that was really, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, me as well. I literally had YouTube. That was my just drinking from the fire hose and had to learn the hard way. Um, so then why tell us some more about your platform and then why did you choose that, to participate in the Bitcoin ecosystem?
So the first Bitcoin conference that was here in Miami,
Mhm,
the first one, some friends, really came up with a very good idea. They told me, hey, you should start your own little shop. You love Bitcoin is all I cared about. I had invested in some Bitcoin startups through
mhm,
other people's groups, but didn't really have my own, and it was a really good idea. So that's kind of what started Lightning Ventures, and then went and raised a very small friends and family fund as
mhm.
a first time fund manager. Didn't charge any fees, nothing on there, and got a little bit of capital together. And very early, right then, we started syndicating deals
Mhm,
and extra allocations. And really, the focus is always building the network, getting the best, most talented people into a group, whether they're investing in the deals or not. Just having their eyeballs,
yeah,
is valuable, and a lot of good can come from that, and has come from that. So, really, always want to focus on, you know, keeping a robust network
mhm,
of awesome badasses,
right,
and then we started investing. We've probably invested total maybe about $10 million or so from then. And yeah, it's been ebbs and flows with, the bull market and the bear market. But through that, Bitcoin startups are always building, and they when the astronomical returns of investing in early stage technology companies is face melting.
mm. Can you give us a little, for those that aren't as familiar with a venture fund, how to raise a fund, how to run a fund, what deal flow is, maybe just give somebody a little few-minute crash course for those that aren't familiar with the terminology and working in a fund?
Sure. So you have all the different ways that you can raise money. You can raise money through crowdfunding, okay, or equity crowdfunding. And crowdfunding is a jumbled up word where you think, oh, Kickstarter and Indiegogo and GoFundMe, and that is a form of Geyser. That is a form of crowdfunding, but equity crowdfunding is an actual investment. There are terms, and you are hoping for a multiple on your money. Okay.
Mhm,
So if you're an early stage company, that's one way that you can raise money. And that's called Reg CF, regulation crowdfunding. It's fairly new, but you can raise from accredited or unaccredited investors, and and raise that way. You can also raise from angels, right? An individual angel investor could be a former tech executive, or maybe a former operator, or some professional, could be an attorney, could be just a guy's hobby. And they'll usually invest maybe around $25,000
Mhm.
into a startup, and they'll invest directly at the earliest stages. They'll get on the cap table themselves at the early stages, right around that $25,000, and they're investing their own money. That's the difference. That's the important part about an angel, is they're investing their own money.
And they
And
usually wanna get more involved, maybe have a board seat, have a little more influence, and they're usually getting in, like, at the friends and family round or, the lowest round you can get outside of founders, I would think, huh?
usually at that early level, nothing happens with a board. You don't
Mm,
really give up board seats, for a $25,000 angel check, maybe like around the Series A, where you've
mm,
got a pretty significant seven-figure check coming in from your lead there. Maybe there's some sort of conversation, but not really at that early stage. Now, the angel can be anyone, right? The angel could be Adam Back. The
mhm,
angel could be your cousin Lou,
mhm,
and maybe, what Adam Back might be able to do for your Bitcoin startup. I don't know what cousin Lou can do. Okay. But it's the same 25,000 from both of them. So the money spends the same. And that's
yeah.
something important to think about when you think about who you're taking money from.
Yeah, it really is kinda building your brain trust. I mean, maybe at the front, you just need money, but at some point, you're gonna need connections and, maybe a little bit of know-how. So it's good to consider that. So you decided to build a fund. So how does that function?
So you have those angel investors too that are investing directly in those startups, but those angel investors might also invest in other venture funds, right? So like what I raised with that friends and family round, those individual angels might also invest, and then you call them LPs, you call them limited partners in that fund. So they basically have no control on the deal by deal basis for investing their own money. They give that to the GP, the general partner, as pooled capital, and then the GP deploys it
Mm,
according to their thesis. Um, and that's another way that you can raise money. So basically the GP then is going to deploy it to these startups. These startups are hopefully going to have amazing careers. They're gonna exit, or M&As, and liquidity is going to come back, and it's going to go back to the GP, and he's going to distribute it back to that limited partner, and that kind of flywheel goes, until there's a kink in that plan, and then everything gets a little crazy, which is pretty much what happened with Silicon Valley Bank and BlockFi and everything. And it just, the IPO market froze, worst on record, I think. So that's what happens there.
mm. Now, how many general partners do you have in your fund?
Just me.
Okay, so it's just you, and then you got your limited partners. Y'all have already launched, right?
Yeah, so the first fund is fully deployed. That's
Mm,
over. So maybe we raise a fund two in the future, maybe we do something else, but the limited partners that we have in that fund invested, but then the backers that are in Lightning Ventures get to see deals on a deal by deal basis, and then they get to decide what they want to invest in for low minimums. So that's kind of the difference there, as far as being a part of a investing group or a network versus just being an LP in a fund.
right. So how many companies did y'all end up investing in that first fund?
In the first fund, oh boy, I don't know off the top of my head, but we've invested total in over 40 Bitcoin startups,
Mm,
maybe closer to 45.
mm,
But we have a lot of great companies
mm,
in the first fund. I mean, Bitcoin exchanges all over the world that are doing sort of the Swan Bitcoin, the Strike, that in everywhere from Canada to Brazil, Australia, Europe, India. Companies that are focusing on remittances, utilizing the Lightning Network under the hood to basically facilitate nearly free instant um, remittance payments,
mhm.
everything, shopping rewards, advertising technology. That's the cool part about Bitcoin now, is it's creeping into every adjacent industry.
Right. Now, how many strikes are there out there in the world? Well, I guess nobody's really keeping tabs on it all, but if it, I imagine Jack's not in every single market, and I don't know if he's going to be able to cover every market. But we are finding guys like that out in the world, kind of starting at somewhat of a strike thing, say in India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And strike is in a lot of markets, but it's a big world.
Oh yeah.
So um, and yeah, and they're all Bitcoin only exchanges,
Hmm.
or something in Central America like Osmo. They're maybe in 6 or 7 countries, 6 or 7 currencies, and they're trying to be the transfer, the Venmo of
Hmm.
Central America in Guatemala. But it's all Bitcoin.
Hmm. Now, how do you get your deal flow? Just through general networking, or do y'all attend events?
Yeah, well, it was cool because, there's still probably only like 5 or 6 Bitcoin focused venture capitalists that you can count. It's not like that crazy. It's not crypto,
Hmm.
which there are a million people out there in that world.
Right.
It's still, still pretty small. And it was definitely smaller in 2021. So just following the industry as close as possible. Sometimes people in our network will refer us a deal if they know of a company or someone's doing something cool, like in a scout program.
Hmm.
And if we end up investing in that through Lightning Ventures, that person gets a percentage of the carried interest on that deal. It's kind of a cool way to get into the industry, or to start scouting some cool stuff and sending it our way.
Now, so you said you're fully deployed on your first fund. You said you had about 40 in that one, and so then you're just waiting on them to mature. Any of them close to an exit, or you have exit strategies on these, or are you just kind of letting them ride?
It's such a long time horizon, and it's still
Mm.
so early.
Right.
And we just went through an absolutely crazy period. I mean, when
Mm.
we started deploying, it was a very hot market. There were
What year
many.
was that?
2021.
Oh yeah.
So, it was a very hot market. There were a lot of pre-product, even pre-revenue deals that were oversubscribed, where somebody's raised, $1 million+
Mm.
with a deck and an idea and a pitch. And that hasn't been the environment for quite a while. It's definitely been, everyone is in defensive mode, making sure that they stay in business, and focusing on getting to profitability. And that's healthy too, you know?
Mhm. Now, do you think when liquidity opens back up, as this bull run starts to take back, I mean, right now it just seems like we have no liquidity globally. Do you think that environment could come back where people are literally getting funded off of a pitch deck, or is that
Oh,
no, those days gone, or you think that
no,
goes with the market?
no, it always gets that way. It goes in both directions, and it'll one day be that way again. I mean, right now, investor demand is low.
Mhm.
Even the angel investors, everyone out there, really everyone wants more Bitcoin right now. And
Right.
you can't blame them for that. But there was definitely a time where people were borrowing against their Bitcoin to invest in startups. And, that's just not the environment right now. But it will get back there, 100%.
Mm.
And, I want to say that the worst is behind.
Yeah.
But it's really hard for a founder right now to raise money. I mean, it's challenging.
Yeah.
It is challenging. It's challenging for the GPs to raise their funds, and it's challenging for the founders to raise from anyone. And it's tougher than it was.
Now, what's the time frame of this difficulty? This started about a year ago, and it's kinda existed now, or where are we in this cycle of being challenging to raise funds?
Definitely over a year. And it can change. It can get some slight relief.
Mm.
But I mean, look at the last few days, even with like the Nasdaq and the broader
Mhm.
markets. I mean, it's like a bloodbath. So
Y
that
Yeah.
that that really affects people's sentiment too.
Yeah, I think with, Trump and Musk, pulling back all this, liquidity, stopping freezing checking accounts and just about everything that can be frozen, just in general, liquidity is just nowhere to be found. And then I heard today that Trump has to refinance $10 trillion by the end of the year. And so he's trying to suppress the Fed's interest rates because who wants to refinance your home when the interest rates are high? And 10 trillion is quite a home to refinance in a high market, in a high fee environment.
I
So
read that headline too, but I wasn't sure. I didn't know if that was like a doom porn headline, sort of, or
I
how
heard it
much
from
truth there
Jack.
is to that.
Jack was the one and I think this month they have to refinance 1 trillion, or excuse me, in April, and 10 by the end of the year. And so, if the feds don't participate or don't cooperate, he's going to have to force them down, which what he's doing will actually force the market down because if banks aren't lending money, and in this environment, I don't think banks are lending money. When liquidity dries up, high fee environment, low confidence in the market, the banks are going to be crying for a loan at any rate pretty soon. So, I kinda think he's doing the right thing. It's gonna be painful though, until he kinda comes out of it, probably at least for a quarter. Any opinion on how long you think this cycle, um, or this downturn lasts?
No, you should probably get Dylan LeClaire on. He could probably go into it all. I'm not
Yeah,
really that macro kind of guy, but
yeah. I listened to him today. I love that guy. He does
yeah,
well.
he's wild in his early 20s. He's going to be a beast in his 40s, probably. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but I don't know. There was all this hope for the M&A activity to pick up, for the IPOs to kind of happen. Hey, Fold just IPO'd the other day. That's pretty freaking
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I haven't checked the market cap and seen how it's been doing, but that's definitely great to have a pure play Bitcoin company. I
yeah.
think they just bought more Bitcoin the other day too, I saw.
That's always a good thing to do, especially at these prices.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you think of are the since you kinda got your hands in the startup world of Bitcoin, what are some things you'd like to see created or some of the interesting things that you're seeing people build on?
Honestly, I'm pretty boring. I actually just want Bitcoin to work nicely with everything else that we do every day. Like when
Mm,
I pay my mortgage, or my car payment, or anything that you do, being able to incorporate Bitcoin into that would be great.
mhm,
Having it sort of work with traditional collateral, to where you're not like an outsider, but there's sort of a balance there, to use it in creative ways, like perhaps a down payment for a house, and there's some upside. Maybe your Bitcoin isn't sold, but there's a collateral sort of element there, so you're using it for a large purchase like a house, but without actually liquidating it.
mm,
And there's a lot of startups that are doing interesting things with that. Things
mm.
even like we're not an investor, but a really cool company called Meanwhile. They're in the life insurance business, where I can't remember how much it is. Maybe it's like 5 Bitcoin. I don't know. It's very expensive.
Mhm.
But there's a sort of a Bitcoin insurance policy. Something like Anchor Watch. Also, we're not. I'm just naming portfolio companies that we have not invested in.
Right.
Uh, but anyway, Anchor Watch, getting your Bitcoin insured, like in your home, like you would your wife's wedding ring or anything else. These are products that are out, that I think are really cool and innovative for the space. So I'm excited about all of this.
Yeah. Now, is there anything as far as, like, the exchanges and stuff, or do you think we have enough exchanges? Or maybe even why don't you describe somebody asked me today as, because we're asking me about you and what Lightning is. They actually asked me, "Are you the inventor of Lightning?" I'm like, "Well, no, that's not how that works. It's just like a second layer." Maybe you can explain what's the functionality of the base layer, maybe to a store of value, I guess is the big one everybody talks about. But then what utility is necessary on a second layer which is all the companies you're talking about. They're building out this second layer that really can't exist on this base layer.
You just asked, do we have enough Bitcoin exchanges, right?
I did.
So let's count all the ways that we can buy Bitcoin. How many you got? Let's see. How many do you think we can get?
Well, we're counting peer to peer as just one, right? So just another Bitcoiner is that
Okay,
category?
wow. All right. So that's a good one. I wasn't even thinking about that, but sure. All right. So peer to peer.
Yeah. So people you meet at a meetup, peer to peer, and then you can just roll down the exchanges like Strike, Swan, River. Got that guy in Europe.
What
That's the
guy
end
in
of my.
Europe? No, no, no. We're talking about US only.
Oh no, well, shoot.
All
Oh,
right. So
Coinbase. No, Coinbase is not Bitcoin only.
well, all right, that's true though, but you can buy Bitcoin there. So let's count it.
Yeah.
All right, that's 5.
And then what Kraken, do they still allow you?
Yeah.
Um, what's the other big one? Crypto.com.
Yeah.
I'm at the end of my list. I think I know of a few others, but yeah, I think I'll tap out at 6 or 7.
All right, so that's 7.
Mhm.
So I guess what other big ones were there's Binance,
Oh,
uh,
right.
Robinhood, I
Mhm.
guess. Okay. Cash App,
Cash App.
I think. So that's 10. Okay. And then if you think about let's see, how about Bold, one of our portfolio companies they just launched. Satoshi Money, that's another one. Um, US, US, who else?
US based, or that US citizens are allowed
Well,
to.
that's 12 right there.
Yeah.
So that's 12 ways that you can buy Bitcoin. Now, think about this. How many ways are there for you to buy an Amazon stock, a share of Amazon? Like
Hmm.
a bajillion.
Right. Right.
So there's probably going to be, there's probably plenty of room for growth.
So even on the exchanges, Bitcoin only exchanges, like, so let's get more strikes out there, calling all Jack Mahlers. We get you to work.
Yeah, and it's not just launching a Bitcoin only exchange. It's tying into the remittance. So a founder that we invested in, love it. It's called Get Bit Money.
Mhm.
I think they rebranded. They're called Crobo, which is cross border. But they focus on remittances from U.S. to India. Okay, people that send money every week to India and just having it be the best, cheapest, fastest, most efficient way with the best exchange rate. You get screwed when you send money like that through Wise and everything else. It's
Mhm.
not good. So, and that's a big part of his business. That alone is huge. And then on the flip side of it, all the people in India, it's an exchange. It's India's only Bitcoin only exchange. But
Really?
over here in the US, it's for people who work at Amazon and have nice jobs that are sending, $2,000-$3,000 a week to India. It's great for them. And when you're here in the US and you go to Crobo and it's a better version of TransferWise, there's nothing on the website about Bitcoin. Like, I love that. There's absolutely no mention of Bitcoin even on the website. You go there and you authenticate with Plaid and you do whatever you do, and then you send that money, and Bitcoin makes it happen.
Hmm.
But it's not there. And
So
if it was there,
it's just the underlying technology is what you're saying.
right, and if it was there, maybe it wouldn't get the same,
Right.
maybe some people wouldn't like in the Philippines, there's a company called Pouch. And in the Philippines, there's like when you go to pay for something, there's like 30 QR codes at the register. Here we have like 2. There's like
Mhm.
a million, right? There's no like unified QR system there. And you go in and you're onboarding a store and you say, hey, this is a new payment thing, it's called Pouch, and then the guy says, sure, put that QR code next to all the other ones, and you
Mm.
can pay that with any Bitcoin wallet, right? It's Bitcoin. If you're saying to a merchant there, I want to pay with Pouch, and you're paying that, it's he's getting Philippine pesos though, you know,
Right.
until he goes further and learns in the app and toggles the settings and says, you know what? No, I want Bitcoin instead. He's getting pesos. But there's nothing on the pouch sign that says Bitcoin. And I think it's cool that you're starting to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, because really it's just transferring energy. across a network. It's just a ledger, and it's just an efficient decentralized ledger that you can't mess with. So you don't have to, just like the ACH payments, nobody really knows, at least when we use it, we don't understand how all that works. I don't understand how it works. Um,
ACH is a massive scam and totally broken.
mm.
The US is so behind,
Tell us more
compared
about this. I'd like to learn a little bit more about it.
wherever you go, outside the US, they have a system that works, and it's perfect. Whether it's Pix in Brazil or SEPA or Interac, you go to Canada, you go to Europe. When you or UPI is the one that they have in India. Basically, every country except the US. Where if I want to send, if somebody does an ACH, it is irreversible. Okay. And in the US here, we have this whole like 90-day ridiculous window, where I can do an ACH, and I can just basically call my bank, and that will be reversed.
Mm,
Uh, and it goes through this whole absurd process, and it's tough doing ACH payments, as selling Bitcoin, because it's a like, immediate deliverable good. So how long do you make that person wait, before they're allowed to withdraw their Bitcoin, knowing they can like call their bank and play all sorts of games.
mm,
And the US is like, it's really disappointing when you see how the rest of the world works.
mm. And so, you said that when you started this fund, you only had, what, 5 or 6 of these, globally, Bitcoin-only exchanges, so y'all all kinda knew one another? And this was back in the, what, 2021, around that time?
Well, we've invested in, Bitcoin only exchanges all over the world. I mean,
Mm,
that's just a business that, and by the way, like if you're in the business of selling Bitcoin, you're probably having record months,
mhm,
for volume on the buying and selling.
mhm,
And yeah, it's probably doubled, uh, since 2021. There are many different ways to buy Bitcoin, especially outside the US, especially Europe. There's so many cool ways to buy Bitcoin in Europe that don't exist here. All the peer-to-peer stuff. A lot of it's legal there. Things like HODL HODL.
mm.
Um, these are legal companies there. We don't have one company like that here in the US. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about or if you know what these companies are, but it's really cool.
No,
Vexel.
tell me more about them. I don't know what you're talking. Well, I've heard HODL HODL, but I don't understand. So why can't they exist here? Is there some rule or regulation that's, preventing them?
Yeah, MTL laws.
Mm,
I can't put an ad on Craigslist that says I'm selling $600 worth of Bitcoin. Meet me here.
mm,
Or I'll take Cash App or whatever. That's not permitted. That's not legal in this country, and it is in the US. They're very friendly for the P2P laws.
what's an MTL law?
Money transmitter license.
Mhm. And so, is there any hope in changing this in our banking system, or is this so cemented in our banking and finance culture that's just a giant that won't get slayed?
I have no idea. We'll see. Hopefully it's being slayed right now.
Yeah,
uh
that's what I didn't know if you heard in the through the grapevine of them actually
no.
addressing some of this when they say that America wants to be the crypto capital or the Bitcoin capital of the world. It would seem like that would have to be one of the things that allows this ecosystem to flourish is to get rid of some of this stuff.
Well, it would certainly help,
Yeah.
with adoption, but, I mean, maybe floating the, what is it, if it's a transactions under $600, and all these other sort of things, and get incentives for some people to use it and not have to worry about unnecessary tax consequences.
Hmm. Now, are we the only country that has this
I don't know.
money transmitter laws? So what are the nations that you see out there that, maybe are some hotbeds for Bitcoin-only ventures?
I mean, the whole world,
Mhm.
is a hotbed for Bitcoin. Um,
Well, I mean, like, jurisdictions that play nice that are actually trying to make it easy for these I've heard, and I don't know if this still is, but like Singapore and Dubai were and even Portugal, I had heard, were some of the jurisdictions that were trying to maybe attract this type of activity.
Well, all of Europe is better than the US, that's for
Mhm,
sure. The UK is not. All of Europe is better, but they just introduced Mika. So they have their own new set of crypto regulatory compliance that all of our European-based companies just went through a whole process of starting to comply with. So that's coming
mm,
in now, and that's gonna tighten up some things over there. It's not going in the looser direction. Dubai, the same thing. They actually just have some, I think it's called a VARA license,
mhm,
virtual asset, something or other that you have to get there. I believe that's fairly new. And even in El Salvador, there's a crypto uh, license that you have to get to operate there. So you kind of need a licenses everywhere that I know of. I'm
mhm.
sure that there are other places. I don't know. Maybe that's a deep dive, deep research project that
Yeah,
I'll take a look at, but I don't know.
that's it. So what does your day-to-day look like on all this? Is this something you're, like, full-time growing, or what are you working on in the
Full time. I have a company that's called Thunder Funder. And
Mhm.
Thunder Funder is a way that anyone can invest in startup companies with as little as $100. We
Wow.
have 2 live deals on Thunder Funder right now. One is for the Orange Pill app, if you've ever
Mhm.
heard of, the
Oh, yeah.
Orange Pill app.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
on it.
yeah, you're on it. So you
Yeah.
could actually invest in the Orange Pill app on Thunder Funder right
Mhm.
now.
I saw
Um,
that come through. I think what is it Pateo? That
Mateo, yeah.
Pateo, and I think he mentioned something about, coming in as an investor or something like that to, the founders community, which is everybody bought a lifetime membership. I think it's like $100 for a lifetime membership.
Yeah, it's a community round. That's one of the cool things about doing regulation crowdfunding is you get to leverage everyone who loves your brand and loves your company. And then, you have a little bit of a more solid connection with that person. They're not just a customer, they love your company. So that's one of the cool
Mhm,
parts about it. And the other company we have a live deal for is called Jolts. And Jolts had the big news in El Salvador a few weeks back when Tether announced that they were going to issue USDT on Lightning. And that's going to happen via Jolts. Jolts is
mm,
sort of leading uh, in Taproot assets. So that is the other company there on Thunder Funder. So I am right now the CEO of Thunder Funder, although
mhm.
we're looking for a new CEO. So if you know of anybody, if there's anyone out there, please shoot me an email or something and talk to me about being the new CEO of Thunder Funder. There was a job posting on Bitcoiner Jobs, which I just took down. I might end up putting it back up there soon. So yes, that is Thunder Funder. And Lightning Ventures, there isn't much going on since we just launched
Mhm.
Thunder Funder. So that's
Right.
really been the main focus. You can still go to ltng.ventures and fill out the either apply to raise if you're a founder or a builder and you're looking for some capital or need some assistance there, or you can fill out the form to be an investor, and we'll send you a invite and we'll get you in our group. And whether you're investing or not, there's some cool folks in there.
And what are the criteria that y'all look for, in an investor?
In an investor,
Mhm.
Well, I mean, there's a short little form, but I mean, I don't know why we would reject someone,
Right.
uh, you
Right.
know, um, and the qualities that we look for in companies. I mean, I like a lot of post revenue, so pre revenue stuff, things
Mhm.
that are live that have some traction, um, and we don't do a ton of mining. We've invested in a few mining companies and we've helped co-syndicate and help support some other mining companies. I mean, technically Blockstream's a mining company, and
Mhm.
invested in Blockstream. But not a lot of mining from our group. There are other groups that are more so focused on that. Um, yeah.
Y'all are mostly second layer, lightning, exchanges, stuff like that, functionality or utility?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that, say the most recent deals, one company is called Slice. It's adslice.com, and it is a browser extension where you get paid for every ad that you see, and you get paid in Bitcoin. You can
Mm.
so basically you can even have your ad blocker on, but you have Slice there, sort of white labeled or whitelisted, and every little ad that you do happen to see in your browser, you know that you're getting half the ad revenue paid to you in sats. It's pretty cool.
Wow. That is cool. I had actually heard Sailor mention that as as something that would be a potential future. This is the first I've heard of it manifest in a real company. Is it one of a kind, or are there others doing that?
That's the only Bitcoin sort of ad tech company that I know of,
Mm.
that
And
I
so
can at least
essentially
think
it
of
is
right now at 9:51 on a Tuesday night.
right. Now, essentially, you have a wallet address, an ad pop up, and you get a sat. This other company gets a sat or two, or whatever the amount is. And so is that pretty much
Basic
how that happens?
No, basically the company has an ad inventory and ad networks that
Mhm.
supply ads, and then that revenue that the company makes, they're putting half of it. You're earning them
Mm.
in your wallet, which you can then either withdraw via Lightning, or you could withdraw it. You could get an Amazon gift card or send it to PayPal or whatever. But so it's not necessarily a Bitcoin company, right? Like it's an ad tech company that allows you to earn money in your browser and do surveys and all sorts of other things, right? But they find that Bitcoin is the easiest, fastest, best way to facilitate those payments to people. And Bitcoiners love getting free sats, right? Who doesn't love free sats?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got a friend of mine that's like a fold, professional. I swear they get so much stuff. They find every way they can to spend money through that thing. Um, alright, so any market updates? I don't know how do you even pay attention to the general global market or sentiments or macro on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I try to. I mean, it's not like all I breathe every day, but,
Mhm.
I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, are you talking about the tariffs, or are you talking
Well,
about just the bloodbath in Bitcoin, or what?
sure. Sure. Well, we could talk a little bit about the bloodbath and what that because I don't know about you, but a lot of the people that I bring into Bitcoin space, especially with this program, and then I'm very active in a lot of meetups. Um, they're always like, "Should I sell?" kind of thing. So maybe they can hear it from you what your response to that would be, or is everything okay? What do you typically tell people when we have this volatile downswings?
I wouldn't sell, and I can tell you that once I was buying a Kia Soul, and the price of the car was $15,000, and instead of just filling out the form and getting a standard loan right there on the spot, I decided to sell 2 Bitcoin at $7,500 each so I could just buy the car and not have to
Mhm.
worry about having a car payment. So that's what happens when you sell.
Mm,
It ends up being $165,000 Kia Soul.
that's a
Uh,
nice Kia.
yeah. Um, I mean, you can't really get affected by the price, right? Like where I'm numb to it. All right. I mean, I'm numb to the price, but my poor mom, I got her retirement account in Bitcoin and micro strategy. Like the guy at Fidelity thinks I'm a fucking lunatic. Like, what do you
Mhm,
do? And she gets rattled by the price, what's going on, how low is it gonna go, and everything, because she hasn't really been through it with her own money before.
mhm,
So I mean, it's got to be scary. Maybe that's why some of this correction is actually so deep. Maybe a lot of the ETF is a lot more paper hands.
mhm.
I mean, that's very
Yeah.
possible.
When I'm talking to you, I feel like this, real disconnect from the volatility, and I find that among people that, in addition to buying and holding Bitcoin, and they get into actually building in Bitcoin, it's almost like they just leave that crowd of price volatility. Do you see that in the culture of builders?
Yeah. And basically, people want to know, why should I invest in Bitcoin startups, right? I could just buy
Mm.
Bitcoin. That's a whole nother thing. But,
Yes. Please answer that question.
well, every Bitcoin startup has Bitcoin on their treasury.
Mhm,
So that's one thing, even Matteo, and he's not shy about it. I think it's in the deal memo in his last update. Matteo will tell you he's got, 3.5 or 4 Bitcoin
mhm.
in their corporate treasury. They're also running a profitable business.
Right.
But so every Bitcoin startup has that. So you're getting exposure there directly. So maybe too much corporate treasury, like a very fun, awesome portfolio company. They're called Scarce City. I love them. They sell art, collectibles. You go to the Bitcoin conferences, the whole art area is Scarce City. Love
Uh-huh,
them.
okay.
But they YOLO hard, and their entire corporate treasury is in Bitcoin. And
Yeah.
has been since I've known them. And there were times when it was 18,000, and they were making ramen jokes, and still going on, and I mean, even where it is now. So just kind of how you manage that. But yes, Bitcoin founders are not freaking out about the Bitcoin price. 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's because they understand it at the base layer that this is kinda like, it really is they understand that this is a disruption. This is not competition to the current market. This is a disruption to the current market, much like, you know, cars didn't compete with horses, they completely replaced them. And you can look at any disruption, whether it's like when electricity came onto the scene. And I think in the same way, the people that are working on this technology, it's like this replaces so many things. So I think that's what gives them the confidence to just disconnect. At least that's what I see in the culture. The more people, and that's what I tell people, you have to do more than buy Bitcoin. You need to get involved. At least go to a meetup and meet the people of Bitcoin. But meeting the founders of Bitcoin companies is a whole nother level. Where are these founders kind of like congregating aside from, like the big Bitcoin conventions?
Well, big Bitcoin conferences is definitely a great place to meet founders and see what people are building, whether they have an exhibitor booth or not. That is definitely a place to go for that. Where else? I can't really think of too many like pitch contest event sort of things or demo days. I know that there are a couple of Bitcoin accelerators that are out there, or maybe they're not like fully Bitcoin. There's a lot of like other stuff, but there's a Bitcoin track sort of thing to it. I guess those would be places to discover some of these companies.
Do you ever go to like any of the BitDev meetups?
Yeah, I lived in New York for a long time, and the New York City Bit Devs
That's the biggest, right? I think in the
it's
country.
outstanding. Dudes are so smart.
Yeah, to my knowledge, I think, theirs is the largest group, followed by LA, Austin, I think Nashville. I've gone to the Nashville one, I'm actually going to this one coming up, next week. That's the only one I've been to. But if you haven't been to a BitDev meetup, a lot of these are open. Um, I haven't been. How's the one in New York? You're no longer in New York, right?
No, I split my time. I haven't been in New York much these days.
Mm,
I've been more in Florida, but yeah, I miss it, and it's amazing. It's
mm,
amazing. We have a good group there. Sometimes we used to go to the Wall Street Bathhouse before the thing,
mhm.
before the meetup. It was great. Surfer Jim, Tone. We used to have a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. I met Surfer Jim on my spaces that I started. I started the Bitcoin Daily show, and he was a regular contributor. He actually helped out with our Wednesday show, I think it was, where it was more about just bringing people in, new people. But but matter of fact, he's going to I think Bit Block Boom here shortly. I don't know if you've been to that. Are there any conventions you recommend to anyone to meet founders? Do you go into the international ones or?
I've been to many Bitcoin conferences. I think I went to BitBlack Boom probably 4 or 5 years in a row. I'm
Mhm.
not going this year. Um, uh, yeah, International Philippines. The one in Riga, Baltic Honey Badger is an awesome conference, like super hardcore. That's a great event. BTC Prague is
Mm,
awesome every year. I think the last 2 years were great. We did two epic Satoshi Nakamoto's there, in Prague. Where else? I just went to Abu Dhabi. I've been to El Salvador 4 times,
mhm,
for 4 different conferences there. Plan B does one there, as well as adopting Bitcoin, even for the first one. Yeah, I mean, I plan my life and travel around Bitcoin conferences, and if there's one thing to spend money on, it would, for me, it's going to those conferences and seeing the world. So I try
mhm.
to couple the conference with a place I really want to go.
Right, right. Yeah, they're usually held at cool locations. Now you're going there for what, to meet founders, deal flow, just because you just enjoy it, all the above?
Well, sometimes I'm lucky enough where they put me up as a speaker,
Mhm,
or moderate a panel or do something fun and try and make venture capital fun.
mhm,
So that's good. My wife also works for the Bitcoin Magazine conference team.
mm,
So sometimes they bring her and I get to tag along. And, yeah, meeting founders, trying to learn. I mean, there's so much to learn. We're so busy doing what we do. Yeah, I'm so busy doing what I do every day that I'm not following what's going on with RGB, and just like there's so much to learn. There's just so much content. So just meeting people, meeting potential future investors, catching up with existing portfolio companies. That's a big one.
mm.
Seeing the founders and people that you've already invested in again, maybe sitting down and catching up for a bit. That's definitely a big part of it.
Alright, so if anybody wants to get involved, let's say they're a Bitcoiner, Bitcoin only, they finally bought in, and now they wanna take that next step and get involved with, working with a company, what are some first steps you'd like them see them take?
So what do you mean by that question? Are you saying like if what do you mean?
So let's say we've got a listener in the audience that is, Bitcoin only, got their stuff off of exchange, but they're still new to the ecosystem, and maybe they went to Nashville, and now with this conversation we're having right now, they might be inspired to, okay, I want to get involved with a startup in Bitcoin. How do I discover them? What should I look for? How do I participate? Is it just here's some of my Bitcoin, or is it uh, maybe go through some of the other ways that some people in the audience can get more involved?
Well, if you're looking to work in Bitcoin, I mean, hands down, the best job board is Bitcoiner jobs. And there are
Mm,
so many great jobs on there that are posted every week. I think it comes out every week, every Tuesday. I think it gets updated. And I posted a role on there even for the Thunder Funder CEO, or somebody that's going to run social media, or maybe you're a product designer, a coder, maybe you're a CPA, or you have a financial background. Maybe they're attorneys, general counsel. I mean, some serious jobs are sourced on bitcoinerjobs.com. And I would just really watch that like a hawk, and I would start applying.
mm,
Um, Other than that, I mean, you know, it's still a small industry. So if you know the companies that are out there, you can kind of follow them. Um, and and yeah, so if you're looking to work in Bitcoin, that's definitely the best resource out there. There is another one too, the Bitcoin Talent Company. The
mhm.
Bitcoin Talent Company has a newsletter, and they're sort of an HR company that they help a lot of people get jobs in the industry. Also, Martel Fox with Layer 4 Talent. Those are pretty much everything as far as recruiting and working in Bitcoin goes.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Now, how about from an investor standpoint? Let's say somebody's got some extra capital and they want to help invest and participate in the creation of all this stuff.
Right. So think about like you save in Bitcoin, but you invest in Bitcoin startups. At least that's what I
Mm,
tell myself, right?
yeah.
We're saving in Bitcoin, but investing in Bitcoin startups. Well, the easiest thing to do would be to sign up for thunderfunder.com.
Like it.
We have a ton of work that needs to be done there. There's two live Bitcoin companies that you can invest in. Also, if you're a founder or looking to raise capital, fill out the apply to raise form there. It's the focus is open source and Bitcoin startups. That's what we're doing over there. And then go to ltng.ventures and fill out the investor form. That website needs a whole facelift too. It's coming for sure. And I'll send you'll get a custom invite to join the Lightning Ventures fold, because there's a lot going on inside there that's not in the public space of Thunder Funder.
Right. Fantastic. Okay. Well, Mike, thanks for coming on the show. Any closing remarks for the crowd? Anything you want to leave us with?
No, man.
Yeah. Well, look, I appreciate the work you're doing. This whole conversation reminded me. I spent a small time in VC. I was in charge of building relationships with the founders, so they'd let us in these follow-on rounds, and I haven't had this kind of conversation probably in a decade at least. It kind of brings me back to those old days when I used to try to help startups.
Well,
It's
cool, man. You should apply to be the CEO of Thunder Funder.
Oh, there we go. All right, I'll take a look at it. I'll see what we can do. I'm trying to launch this media company, um, the Bitcoin Daily podcast, but you know, Bitcoin creating content inside the Bitcoin ecosystem taught me a lot about media, and I kind of semi-retired thanks to Bitcoin, and I restarted a media company inside of Parks and Recreation, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry that's hundreds of years old, and I'm literally the only media company over there. So you see how we have all these people making media for from podcast to video to everything you can globally in Bitcoin. There's nothing going on in a massive industry. Um, but I always find a way to weave Bitcoin into the conversation with these kind of small town government workers, and I'm shocked at how open they are to it. I know we have few of them listening to our content right now. So shout out to everybody from Parks and Recreation. Glad to have you into the Bitcoin community. Um, but I appreciate your time, man. I'd love to check in with you in a few months, see if you got any updates for us.
Sounds good, man. And I'll send you that invitation. We'll get you in our group too.
Yeah, I'd love to join. Thank you for inviting me.
Cheers.
Yeah, take care. Bye. All right. So that was Mike. He is one of the guys, man. I love that he's building on this ecosystem, investing in Bitcoin startups, and he is just a signal that really tells you we are early. So often when you see the Bitcoin price and you're so focused on the price, you're like, oh, I'm too late. The nation states are coming in. I should have got in earlier. But when you talk to people like Mike that are in the layer two, that are working with founders, um, and I love how he kind of called me out on, well, let's start naming the ways to buy Bitcoin here in America. And I'm like, as I started counting, I'm like, he's right. That there are not enough of everything on Bitcoin. There's not enough entrepreneurs. There's not enough founders. There's not enough investors. There's not enough workers in it, and it is a massive industry that's just in its infancy. We look at that $2 trillion or $1.5 trillion market cap. This thing can run all the way up to, oh gosh, 400, 900 trillion, you name it, because as the economy grows, it's going to go to meet it. And this is just a natural place for an ecosystem built on the Bitcoin layer to exist. And there are so many entrepreneurial endeavors that are not here yet that need um, all types of human capital and human creativity and stuff. So for you Bitcoiners that are out there pouring your energy into the fiat ecosystem, maybe you should consider taking this accounting talent, this legal talent, this entrepreneurial talent, and come exist in the Bitcoin ecosystem and maybe apply with Mike and his companies to perhaps get some funding, get some connection. And I promise you, it's a great group of people. Y'all know I always encourage you to go meet the Bitcoin people. Go to your local meetup, shake the hand of your Bitcoiner. These are typically producers, which means they have more money than they have bills, and they're looking for a savings mechanism. But then after that, maybe go to the next level, work with Mike and go to these conventions where you start to meet the founders of these early stage companies. And it is definitely super early. So you're not just hearing it from me, you're hearing it from a guy that is literally funding these early stage startups. that it is still super mega early. I don't even know how to compare it to the age of the internet, but I feel like this is you know, right when websites were just being built, maybe right around the time of email. There's so much stuff that needs to be built and that is going to be built. And remember, this is a global phenomena. This is happening in every corner of the world. And I really appreciate the work that Mike's doing. So thank you for coming on the show, Mike. I'd love to have you back anytime. Give us an update on what you're seeing and what you're doing. Um, so this is Craig LeBlanc with the Doorman with the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, coming to you 5 nights a week, Sunday through Thursday. Of course, it seems like I can't get a Friday off because I've always got somebody that wants to meet on Friday. I've got a lady named Laurel. She is helping me finally to schedule the shows. Please give us to at least the 50th episode. I know we're going live and we're using these first 50 episodes to just build out our little team. Right now there's 5 of us working full time on this, along with the other media company that I'm building out for Parks and Rec. We've got a digital artist. We've got a somebody that's distributing the content. We finally picked up a networker to schedule people to come on the show. So if you're interested, if you're a digital artist and would like to help create content for the Bitcoin community, please reach out to me, hit me up in the DMs. We've got a pretty talented group that's working with us now, but we want to help tell the story of Bitcoin, Bitcoiners, Bitcoin businesses, all things Bitcoin. We want to help get the word out and create really good programming and content for this whole ecosystem. It's a passion project of mine. I love it. Bitcoin's been great to me. So I really want to give back, but then I also want to build something that, as far as media is concerned, I look at it this way. The early days of media, it was all around news. You know, politics was a big example of that. And then maybe even music, if I remember MTV, VH1, that kind of stuff. And then it rolled on into sports. But now the cost of production, the cost of making content has gone down to, if you just have the will and the desire and an internet connection and a laptop and a microphone, you're good to go. So I encourage everyone that wants to make content, especially in the Bitcoin community, please do. If you need a little help, reach out to me. I'll be glad to tell you some of the software stack that we use, some of the hardware that we use, where we bought it from, just to get you going. I would say just, best entrepreneurial advice I've ever gotten or given is just to start. Um, just take a few steps, do an hour a day, do 2 hours a day, and eventually it just comes into where this is just what you do. But without starting, I don't think you really ever get anywhere. So I'd encourage everybody, if you haven't watched Jack Mahler's, he does a little Monday show. And for those of you who don't know who Jack Mahler's is, look him up. He is the founder of Strike, a Bitcoin only exchange. And I want to get you the name of his. Okay, it's called uh, the Money Matters Podcast. And so he comes on, I want to say 6 p.m. Eastern on every Monday. Really good content. He's one of the, I think, really one of the thought leaders, and he's one of these young entrepreneurs that's building out all the second layer stuff like Mike's talking about. He's a guy you want to follow. He has cool guests, but he also sits there and just answers a lot of the questions that we have. He's kind of a macro guy as well, understands that, speaks on it very well. I haven't heard anything that he says that led me astray. So if you're new to Bitcoin, you're looking to learn a little bit more, go a little bit deeper. Um, the Money Matters podcast is really good. So keep it up, Jack. You're really leading us all. So I appreciate all that you're doing. Mike, thank you so much for coming on. I will be here tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern every day. Well, Sunday through Thursday, sometimes Friday. None on Saturdays. That's my day off. But love you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see y'all here tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.
Welcome to the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, where knowledge meets financial freedom. We're here to break down the world of Bitcoin. No fluff, no hype, just real talk about how this digital asset is reshaping the future of money. Inflation is stealing your purchasing power, but what if there was a way to fight back? Enter Bitcoin, the digital currency that empowers you to take control of your wealth. Ever wondered why your money doesn't stretch as far as it used to? At the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, we educate, inform, and inspire. From expert interviews to breaking news, we bring you everything you need to stay ahead in the Bitcoin community. Market updates, expert insights, real-world use cases, and practical tips to navigate the Bitcoin economy. So whether you're a seasoned Bitcoin investor or just getting started, this is your daily dose of Bitcoin wisdom. Don't miss out. Subscribe now, hit that bell icon, and let's break free from the chains of inflation, one Bitcoin at a time. The Daily Bitcoin Podcast, your gateway to financial freedom.